Dax Hill option has been picked up. Plus, we'll talk about the rest of the AFC North coming up next on the Cincinnati podcast.
It's an exciting time to be a Bengals fan.
Welcome to the Cincinnati podcast. I'm Ace. He's Zim. Who Dey Nation? We're fresh off of the draft. If you guys didn't hear our last episode, make sure that you check that out. We've got the videos on our Cincinnati playlist. Make sure you check that out. Give this video a like. Make sure if you're new here to hit that subscribe button. But first and foremost, partner, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. I was telling you off air, like, you know, I had some time. I washed my face and I was like, you know what, let me get right. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we be rushing and stuff. I ended up rushing because I took too long. But other than that, man, I feel refreshed. That's always the good thing. I've been telling you I've been getting my health right. So I've been working. I worked out every single day this week. So I'm really happy about that. I feel good too. Everybody knows, like, when you leave the gym, you might be tired as I don't know what, but you might walk out of there and just be like, man, you know what? I did that. And so I feel really good about that. And I don't think I'm in NFL shape yet, but I'm a work in progress.
Nah, that's what's up, bro. Definitely got to take care of your health for sure. Speaking of health, the Ravens had a healthy 11 picks in this draft. But before we even get into that, we'll talk about those guys coming up next. Let's talk about the Dax Hill situation because the Bengals have picked up his fifth-year option. This is really big because most people don't know what to think about the Dax Hill situation. There's so much uncertainty at corner. The Bengals end up picking up his option, so Dax Hill is going to be scheduled to make, I believe it's $12 million next season as it stands now. I feel like this is something that pencils Dax Hill in for one of those starting positions at corner because you've already given the investment, so you have to see how it's going to pan out. It's very interesting, though, because CTB is in a contract year. Now you got Dax on the books for next year. What were your thoughts when you saw this come across the timeline?
I loved it. Me and you were having conversations about CTB and different players like that and, like, the thresholds of, like, how much would you pay and all these different things. I know that it's not an extension, but it does signal to me that at least the Bengals have a plan in place to hold him, in that spot. If he balls out this year, then the conversations of an extension start up, and you get off the hook for the fifth-year option. But the fifth-year option does put you in a little bit of a bind because the contract, once that season starts, is guaranteed. So if they could, try to get a deal done if he balls out this season, but I think even his floor is competent level safety play, competent level nickel play, competent level outside. I just think he has tremendous value for that. I think the other corners do too. But, we talked about getting out in front of it. This isn't getting out in front of it per se, but at least it does say we're not going to put that to the back burner and then wait for this thing to blow up in our face. And to me, that's all I can ask for right now because it'd be tough to extend him right now and he coming off an injury.
Yeah, I think for what the Bengals are right now, I think Dax Hill, you have to add some stability to that corner room. It's a very youthful corner room. They didn't take a corner in this draft, so you wouldn't want to go into next year or anything like that with two kind of question marks. Because you're talking about Cam Taylor-Britt being in the contract season this season, and then that would have been Dax Hill as well. So you would have possibly been without your top two corners. Now, you do have DJ Turner. You do have Fig Newton. However, the cupboard would be very bare, especially with Mike Hilton likely not returning to this team. You just would be in a really bad situation. So I think, like you said, it makes sense for them to pay the $12 million. And I think in comparison to some of the prices that you would have to pay for franchising Dax Hill, you're saving money from that perspective. And it just makes sense for them to do that from that perspective. Now, speaking of the division, before we get into the Ravens, they had an interesting situation where they had 2 first-round picks, right, from that season. Kyle Hamilton was one, which they exercised the option on. The second was Tyler Linderbaum, T. Liddy, but they chose to decline it because he would have been making somewhere near the top of what the centers are getting paid right now. So they chose to decline it, saying that they still hope to get a deal done. What do you think about that? That's pretty interesting because I'm like, for me, if Tyler Linderbaum is one of the top centers in the NFL, you would think that they would have no problem with paying that. Does this sound like the Ravens don't believe that Tyler Linderbaum is a top center in the NFL?
Unlike our counterparts, they're gonna find out about like us and we like to talk ball, right? And I think a lot of people talk about the Bengals and it's like wishful thinking, and they're like, oh, they're not gonna be able to sign this. You could easily say that for the Ravens, right? Because of all the all pros and the pro bowlers and all these different things. But I think that they didn't do it because they know that the center is probably, top of the line center money isn't crazy money. And I think that they're probably working towards probably getting an extension, and they didn't want to be on the hook for the guarantees of a potential. This is what we were, like whatever. I posed that to a Raven fan online. They were like, "You don't know ball. Like you're saying that because you guys franchise." Like, no, I don't think it would be smart to franchise a center, and I don't think that it would be smart to exercise the 5-year option on a center because of the guarantees with it. Where somebody like him, because the annual per year isn't crazy high, you should be able to do like what we're saying we should do with Trey Hendrickson, is give him a nice check of $20 million up front, which is big money for a center. And then you take the guarantees like down a notch because you gave him guaranteed money up front. So now the cap hits aren't as high. That's how I would play it. And I think the Ravens are smart enough to do so. See? I'm not just a Ravens killer. I actually understand the inner workings of football teams.
For sure. So with that being said, let's get to this Ravens draft, man. This Ravens draft, round 1, Malachi Starks. Man, that was a tough one because a lot of people felt like the Bengals could take Malachi Starks. I feel like this helps a need that they have at safety because they really like to let Kyle Hamilton play that nickel corner role. And they need kind of that second, third safety, and they've kind of missed that, and they haven't had a solid safety at that spot. They've tried several different guys there. They decided to move forward with Malachi Starks. What were your thoughts on the Malachi Starks pick for the Ravens?
I thought they cooked. I thought I wouldn't have been mad at the Bengals taking Malachi Starks at 17. I think the consensus for the National Football League, and we were looking at this, or I was looking at a chart earlier, and the consensus for Malachi Starks, the value in him, it was believed that he would go as early as pick 16. So the value that they got taking him at pick, I think 27, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's an indifference in a value of 11 on the consensus board. And the reason why I'm going to focus on consensus boards a lot is because I think the Bengals did the opposite of consensus board. And I understand that people might say, well, Bengals got a chance to talk to these people and all these different things like that. It's a good article if you guys check it out on the Eagles. They said that they did used to do that. The last time they did that was Jalen Reagor. And since then, they kind of go the consensus top 20, 30, whatever. So to me, is what really good teams do is they take the best available player and then you're maximizing that room. So now, even though they extended Washington or whatever, that doesn't really matter to them. Now they have 4 years of cheap labor for a top-level prospect, the number one safety off the board, and that's how I approach the draft. The Bengals do not approach the draft like Zim Hude. That's fine. I am not a GM. I like this style of taking the best player available.
Yeah, and just so time permits, let me make sure I get through the rest of the guys. So they took Mike Green in the second round. They took Emory Jones, the tackle out of LSU, in the third. Teddy Buchanan, a linebacker. Carson Vincent, a tackle. A corner, Bilal Cohn. A kicker, the best kicker in the draft, Tyler Loop. LaJohntay Wester, a wide receiver. Aeneas Peebles, the D tackle from Virginia Tech, Longer Beam as a corner, and then Dellinger. I feel like the Mike Green pick really stands out because the Ravens have not had great edge rushers. They finally got some. They always get production from getting sacks. So I know Ravens fans are watching this and saying, "Hey, we lead in sacks and stuff like that." However, sometimes it's by committee. Now, recently they have gotten some production from the edge rush position, but it's from older veterans and guys that may not make their next contract. And so I think with the uncertainty there, they brought in a Mike Green. I think the uncertainty on the offensive line, they look at Emory Jones, they look at what he could be there in terms of maybe a tackle or maybe a guard, depending on how they see him. But they need help on that line. I think that's why they doubled up and got Benson as well. And then obviously with the Justin Tucker situation, we don't know how that's going to play out. So they had to get a kicker. And then the craziest pick for me was they were able to get Peebles late, which is just adding more to that pass rush, right? The Mike Green pick plus Peebles. And I think that makes one of their draft one of the best in the AFC North. What were your thoughts on the rest of the Baltimore Ravens draft?
I love their draft as well. I thought that they finally got like a real legit edge rusher in my mind. I know that everybody's not going to like the fact that he had the off the field stuff and sexual assault, accusations or whatever is going on with that. I'm gonna tell y'all on Sundays, they don't care. And everybody that move like whatever, and that dude right there is one of the best edge rushers. I thought he was the second best edge rusher in the whole entire draft. In terms of just a pure specialist, he's one of those guys. So he's going to be problematic. I thought the Arenas Peebles pick later and the kid that you just said, the offensive lineman, damn, my brain is like Dillinger, the Garrett Dillinger pick. They cooked at the end. I feel like the middle of their draft starts to fall off a little bit with a little bit more unknowns, and that's them taking a chance. They have 11 picks. With their roster, I don't see everybody making it, but it is what it is. Like, that was a really solid draft, and we'll give our grades at the end, but there was a lot to like. I thought the Arenas Peoples pick is going to be one that works out in their favor. Like, I think that's going to be a guy that they can line up in that 3-sec and be able to rush the passer and get after it, at a high clip, bro. Like, so they're going to be able to rotate guys in. I know that they want to extend Travis Jones and everything like that, but I feel like now they have different roles and different specialists, whether it's the edge with Mike Green, whether it's Dafe Owe, who I think his run defense is a little bit underrated. You got so many different guys that you could throw up front in that 3-4 scheme. Back in now, you got Malachi Starr, so they're like, yeah, they cooked. So that was a really good draft.
Yeah, I agree. For those watching on Twitter, we are now about to shift the show over to YouTube. So if you're watching from Twitter, the feed will get canceled out. You will have to continue to watch the show from YouTube. So come on over to the Cincinnati YouTube channel. We appreciate that. That helps us grow the channel. And then we're going to continue with the rest of the draft where we'll talk about the Browns and the Steelers.
Absolutely.
So that's going to bring us to the Browns. The Browns ended up having probably the most surprising draft out of all of these cohorts in the North, because a lot of us assumed they're either taking Abdul Carter to pair with Myles Garrett, or they're going to take Travis Hunter. I don't know what the odds were in Vegas for them taking somebody else other than that. If it was Mason Graham, it was probably plus 200,000 or something crazy like that. But they end up trading out of that pick. They end up getting a first for next year. They trade with Jacksonville. They get an extra second-round pick, and essentially they move down 3 spots to the number 5 pick. They select Mason Graham out of Michigan. Then in the second round, they go and get Carson Schwarzenegger with the first pick. In the second round, they go and get Quishon Judkins, a running back out of Ohio State, which some people were shocked that he went before his teammate. Then they got Harold Fannin Jr., a tight end from Bowling Green, Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback, which that shocked people because when the round 3 pick came in, a lot of people expected it to be Shador. They didn't. They went and got Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon. They come back day 3, get Dylan Sampson, a running back out of Tennessee. And then they get Shador Sanders in round 5. What are your thoughts on the Cleveland Browns draft, Zim? I'll get my thoughts. My bad. I had it minimized. So for me, I think Mason Graham is a guy with a very high floor, right? This isn't the situation where the Cleveland Browns, similar to the Julio Jones trade, moved back and took a guy that had a high ceiling for being a bust. They did that before. They've done that in the past. They've taken 26-year-old, 27-year-old quarterbacks moving out of that top spot, and they just really have mismanaged it in the past. I think in this situation, I actually feel like them getting Mason Graham isn't the level of a Abdul Carter, isn't the level of a Travis Hunter. However, it's still a very solid pick. I think he was one of probably the safest guys in this draft. Now, I don't know if he's going to be a guy that is going to give you a bunch of sacks. He might be more of a pressure guy instead. He may be able to stop the run. But to me, he's kind of the safest D tackle, and you still get to pair him on the line with Myles Garrett. And then with Carson Schlesinger, that move makes sense for them because JOK, his future is uncertain. And you got to really build around the defense in Cleveland just because you don't know what that system is. Now, Quishon Judkins, like the Browns honestly got a lot of the guys that I felt like the Bengals should have targeted. The Bengals brought in Quishon Judkins. They brought him in for a visit. I think he's going to replace what they had in Nick Chubb, right? Nick Chubb wasn't the same last year. That's no secret. They didn't really have that run game. You've kind of talked about it, Zim. They've turned more into a passing type team. I think now they're going to get back into being a running team. And I think Quinshawn is going to help them do that. You got Harold Fannin Jr. That's not even fair to me because they already have a pretty good tight end and Njoku. Now they get to get a young Harold Fannin in there to pair with him. That's going to help them out. And then getting Shedeur Sanders, who most people thought that they would take at number 2 or number 3 in the draft, or number 2 in the draft. They expected them to take Shedeur there anyway, and they realized early on they felt like the value wasn't there. So they still end up with Shedeur. They still end up with a first-round pick for next year if the quarterback situation doesn't pan out. I actually kind of like Cleveland's draft as well, what they did here. What are your thoughts on what Cleveland did in the draft?
Initially, I loved the draft. As time has gone by, I thought about it though. All right, so in terms of value in our division, they got the best value out of all of those guys. And you said a real good thing. You said safe. I thought that when you think about it, in one end, it's setting it. This is the first time in my whole adult life that I've witnessed the Cleveland Browns actually acknowledge that they weren't a Super Bowl contending team. And they prepared for the next year by getting another first round pick. The hope is that they probably get Arch Manning. The problem that they might run into is that they win like 6-7 games or more, which I think they probably would, right? It's hard that you're not going to get the ability to trade up. Now, the quarterback from Penn State is really good. There's another quarterback. There's 3 quarterbacks that I think are head and shoulders above like this draft class. So you put yourself in a position to get one of those guys. Another dilemma, though, their roster has so many quarterbacks on it. How are you going to be able to assess like who's really winning it, who's doing this, who's doing that? The Shedeur thing, I think he's already the 3rd highest selling rookie jersey already selling, right? To me, it's almost like a ploy a little bit, and I don't like that in this sense of the Dylan Gabriel pick is a bad pick. I don't know why they did that. I don't think that I just don't know where. I don't know. They were talking about bro might not even go. He might go undrafted. So then you get Shedeur in the 5th. It does make it so that if Shedeur isn't lighting it up, it's an easy, like you can move away from the situation. But because he's such a hot commodity, hot topic person, it's not going to be that simple. And to me, I thought that if they felt like that Shedeur was draftable, they should have took him earlier because of all of the stuff that kind of comes with him. Even taking him in the 2nd or the 3rd isn't a big deal. Like that still isn't a big deal. It's hard for me to believe that they think Dylan Gabriel is that much better. And to me, that makes it like a wasted pick, and it's going to make it really weird. And then I don't know. The safeness of it. This is another thing that I just been thinking about. If Travis Hunter, they had a chat GPT, or you've been talking about Abdul Carter. I think it's Travis Hunter is the one. they were talking about like his projection and everything, like year one getting 950 yards, like a whole bunch of touchdowns, year two, 1,200 yards. Like, bro, if that were to happen, you would look at them forever. And I said that when they traded out of it. Now, if you come back and go get the quarterback next year, nobody cares. But to get out of that spot with a generational level talent or athlete in Travis Hunter and then or Abdul Carter, and then Mason Graham, like I know he's gonna be really good, and I think he's gonna play in the league for a long time, but I don't think that it's too hard for me to move off of. If I'm a fan of them, I know that they probably were forced to move on really quick because that's what their organization is selling them. But that's a tough sell for a fan, bro, to say, like, bro, I had a chance. Like, what? Let Travis Hunter come out there week one and score a touchdown. Let Travis Hunter come out there week one and get a pick six. Bro, that joint could get ugly quick. And Mason Graham, the style of play that he plays, it might not show up like that every Sunday either. As good as I think he is going to be, I just don't think they thought about like the repercussions of if you get out of that pick and dude is like really good. And I know that that's like something you just make a decision to move on. I think both of those players have a really chance of being like really special in the league. And I think I would have figured out that quarterback stuff later. They got 5 on the roster. Like, let's just get a real good quarterback, like getting the extra first next year. If Arch Manning is who they say he is, teams ain't taking 2 firsts. You need 4 firsts, 5 firsts. That's not enough ammo. So I don't know.
Yeah, so that brings us to the Steelers draft class. Derek Harmon, defensive tackle that many expected the Bengals to take. Caleb Johnson, a running back from Cincinnati in round 3. They didn't have a second-round pick. Jack Sawyer, edge rusher in round 4. Yaya Black, defensive end in round 5. Will Howard. They took a lot of Buckeyes in this one. Will Howard, the quarterback, in round 6. Carson Bruner, a linebacker. Dante Kent, the cornerback. For me, I liked, for the most part, their first pick, Derek Harmon, be able to get him at the position that they did. A lot of people thought that they may be in on Shador, right? A lot of people thought that they would look at a quarterback, but they ended up going D-tackle. And I feel like it took Derek Harmon because many expected the Bengals to take Derek Harmon. Many didn't expect Derek Harmon to be there. And I think that they've tried to fit Larry Ogunjobi in a role and find a role there for him. And I think that they're going to try to find that in Derek Harmon. So bringing him in makes sense. Jack Sawyer, you talk about somebody that could fit in on that defensive line that they have. The uncertainties that they have with TJ Watt right now, you've got to add to that room, which is why I think that they took Jack Sawyer, Yaya Black. That makes sense for them to do that. Will Howard, John Gruden's on his show calling him, pretty much Josh Allen. I don't know if he's that good, but they had to get some sort of quarterback because the Aaron Rodgers situation, as much as they're acting like Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, you still have to play it safe and draft somebody there because right now their quarterback situation is horrible. It's honestly one of the worst in the league right now. And the way that they did this draft, you better bet, you better hope that Aaron Rodgers is going to be there. Caleb Johnson is the running back. He's replacing what they had in Najee Harris. So I think that makes sense. I think it was okay for the Steelers. I don't think it was anything like too crazy. Like, I'm not writing home about the Steelers draft, but I think they made some pretty good picks. What about you?
When it's all said and done, I think that the Bengals draft is going to be not like head and shoulders over the Steelers draft. This is the first one in the division where I feel like we did. There's a clip going around where Yaya Black is getting dominated by Jalen Rivers. I don't know if y'all seen that at the Senior Bowl. Caleb Johnson, he's from Hamilton. He went to Hamilton High School, so hometown kid. I think he's going to be a force. I'm not even that confident in their offensive line like that for the Steelers. No offensive line picks. I thought that was a red flag. I do like the Derek Harmon pick. Where they were picking him at 21 is good value. Will Howard, I mean, that's just Mason Rudolph times 2. I just don't see it, man. I don't really like that Jack Sawyer. I think for getting him in round 4 is good value too. I think he's going to be a motor guy that keeps on moving. He can clean up a lot of sacks. So not a bad draft at all. I mean, it's debatable. I'm pretty sure most people will tell you that their draft is better than ours, but we'll see how that pans out. Nothing on their draft really stood out where it's like tremendous impact. I respect what they did, but I just don't see it the same way they probably don't see Shamar Stewart, right? So it is what it is.
Yeah, for me, I think the only people that really stick out, bro, are the first 2 picks. Derek Harmon, Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson, I'm not extremely worried about just because the Bengals clearly spent a lot of resources on stopping the run in the draft and free agency. So I feel like they have a plan for that. Harmon is going to be interesting to see because I wasn't the biggest fan of Harmon, but I would have been okay with the Bengals taking him as that pass rushing 3-tech. Now we get to see how he works out. Now it's a completely different system than ours, but we kind of get to see how Malachi Starks and Derek Harmon kind of end up working out for the rest of the division.
I spoke about their offensive line. I do like Mason McCormick a lot at right guard. Troy Fatanu, a lot of Bengals fans wanted. I like him at right tackle. Center Zach Frazier. I thought that was a guy that everybody should have been targeting as well. Isaac Simelu, remember they got him from the Eagles, and he was one of the best guards. The big standouts, the one that I just didn't think that they would go to draft without doing this. Remember, Broderick Jones is moving. So they got him at left tackle with a less than quarterback, even if it is Aaron Rodgers. On your blind side, like right-handed, I don't know. I thought that they would throw another tackle in that draft to make sure to get themselves a better insurance policy. I'm pretty sure they'll tell me about Calvin Anderson or one of those dudes as a backup is going, bro, I'm telling you, he's a dog, but okay, whatever. But I would have walked out of that draft with another one.
And you're also talking about a team that is supposed to be walking away from George Pickens, if not this season, next season, and they didn't really go out and draft anybody in this draft.
They put them on the block. Nobody made them an offer. I guess they couldn't refuse. The one thing is, too, this is another thing. They took a cornerback in the 7th round. Cornerback in the 7th round, right? Darius Slay at 33, 34 years old. Didn't they just do that last year with what's his name? The other old corner that remember they did Patrick Peterson one time. And they did so they're doing like this whole musical chairs thing. I thought they had great opportunities to go get another tackle, go get a corner. I was watching them a couple of different times in the draft, and I was like, oh, they about to go take, and they didn't. And I don't know. I just think in our division, cornerback play is very important, and you need a bunch of them. To bring in Darius Slay is like the answer without a contingency plan at 33, 34 years old. I don't know. I just don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that. But what I do like, Midwest best.
Now they call T. Higgins, or you say number 5s. Either way, you'll be winning. It's them hot honey lemon peppers. Now they call T. Higgins, or you say number 5s. Either way, you'll be winning. It's them hot honey lemon peppers. Now they call T. Higgins, or you say number 5s. Either way, you'll be winning. And much love to Mama T, Uno and CTB. MB's got Bengals wings, and now we just added T's. 9 to 5 winning things. Gritty for Uno wings. We say yes, Sirski now. Like X's and be saying that T got them new wings. Only at MB's. Honey lemon peppers. Now you can call them T's. Honey lemon peppers. Now they call T Higgins. Or you say number 5s. Either way, you'll be winning. It's them honey lemon peppers. Now they call T Higgins. Or you say number 5.
That was nice. I ain't gonna lie.
669 Justice Court in Loveland, Ohio. Make sure that you check them out. Let them know Ace and Zim sent you. Tim and Nicole are there. They got the wings. They got the barbecue. They got the ice cream. They got it all. Make sure you stop in Midwest Best Barbecue. Even if you're there on your lunch break, you want to do DoorDash, you can order online at MidwestBestBarbecue.com. They'll get your order together for you. Zim, was there anything that you wanted to say before we get up out of here?
No, I feel like we covered the Bengals in the last episode. Make sure y'all check that out. Make sure you send this to somebody, like and subscribe. We want to just go over the AFC North pretty quick today. We'll come up with some new stuff. We'll have a guest, I think, next week as well, too. So make sure you keep track of that. And make sure you subscribe and watch the Bengals post. They're putting out really good content on this channel as well, too. And that's all I got.
Yes, Thirsty.